Hello everyone, welcome to episode 7 of Truth Noir. I'm joined here by my guest host tonight, Tom Stenberg. It's his first time on the show, but I met him. He's a brilliant musician and also, fellow concerned citizen like all the rest, and has a lot of insight, a lot of knowledge of history that we're going to share with you this evening. So I want to welcome him to the show. Tom, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience? Anything about yourself?
You're going to have to figure out this history thing real quick.
Well,
I'm a musician, singer-songwriter. I run a showcase in Koreatown at the Brass Monkey every Sunday from 4 till 8. We have live musicians there. And of course, I also run the Doubting Thomas Hour on Saturdays at 5 p.m., which streams out of here with, some chatter and musical guests.
Excellent.
And then I'm also a businessman, just to make sure I can put some butter on the bread.
Right. Yeah. No. We have to wear many hats these days. As it turns out, you can't just do the stuff you love. You have to do the grind and wear the monkey suit and all the rest of it. But
it's my impression that it's about 2% of the population who gets to do what they love.
Right. Yeah, and and it's unfortunate because we are, humanity is the only species on this planet that toils in this way just to exist on the planet it was born on, and it's kind of daunting when you think about it, especially with our state of cultural enlightenment and progression, where we have these machines that are able to do so much, in the way of production and manufacturing and delivery,
And the spread of information.
Absolutely. But there is still this stigma of well, you're a deadbeat if you don't earn your keep, and it's coming to the point where there's not a whole lot left to do. You used to have to run stuff on the assembly line. Even in the early, Industrial Revolution, there was all of these things that needed to be done. Being a maid for a family was an entire day's work. Whereas now, you have a Roomba, a little machine vacuum that can run around your house and clean up everything. And
by the way, that reminds me of a discussion I just had with some of my friends today about, if you look at the way cars are made these days, you go buy yourself a Kia, for example,
sure,
and it has a 100,000-mile warranty on it. It's not going to need a mechanic. It's only going to need the dealership for the first 100,000 miles.
Right.
So when you think about the little guy mechanic out there, who used to be able to fill his shop with cars, that is ebbing slowly but surely for these guys as the older cars slip out of the market. And then imagine as electric cars come in, it's not going to be any need for maintenance, really.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, it's any number of things that go on in society. I mean, they're getting now to the point where cars, like automobiles, are going to be driving themselves.
Absolutely. I look forward to that, by the way.
Yeah, right. No more DUIs.
Be nice.
So that's a positive, but
no more free parking on the 405.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But also one of the drawbacks of that, as with any revolution or evolution in technology, is you're going to have all of your delivery jobs, your mailman, your long distance freight hauler, all of these jobs are going to start disappearing. And, it's just further to the point of, when do we draw the line and say, we don't need to pay to live on this planet. Like, nothing else that lives on this earth does that. And yeah, we like having the infrastructure, we've developed the technology, we like going from place to place. There are things that, that produce these things, and they need maintenance. But I think pretty soon we're going to have a situation where there's just not enough work to go around. And it won't be because of some economic crisis, and it's just going to be because there's just not that much to do.
And the population is growing.
Yeah, the competition is getting ever more, and corporations are really pushing for the legislature to pay people less and less and less, even though these people make, I was looking at some statistics, and we'll do an episode about it another day, but it is in some cases it's like 5,000% more than their average salaried employee. That's what the CEO makes, is 5,000 times more, to the tune of, like, some of these guys, like I think the CEO of Oracle makes something like $30,000 an hour, you know, and
it's a big problem to pay people $15 an hour for, you know,
yeah, and they
minimum wage.
they will put millions and billions of dollars into the ad campaigns to convince you to say, oh, well, no, there's people don't deserve $15 an hour, you know, and it's garbage. Like, everyone deserves that, you know. Everyone deserves to benefit from the resources that their country
or at least
produces.
be able to pay their bills.
Yeah.
Have a decent place to live.
Whatever it is that they produce, you know, but then they call that socialism, and they say, well, that's bad.
I know.
You know, it's a fantastic system they have, and it's that kind of social structure that we're trying to chip away at here. The topic of today's episode is conspiracy theories that actually turned out to be true, like they actually happened the way people said they did, and people were discredited for decades because they were saying these things, and people were telling them, oh, you're un-American, and that's just a bunch of conspiracy theory nonsense. And then it turns out that the documents have been declassified finally, and it turns out that things happened exactly the way that...
Right there in black and white.
Yeah, that these nut jobs, like our friend wearing the tinfoil hat there in the corner, it turns out that's how it actually happened. And I like this guy because he kind of represents like your average, you know, dipshit conspiracy theorist that just believes whatever ridiculous theory is out there, that, you know, the Queen of England is a reptile, or
that happens to be true.
You know, it may very well be. I've heard a lot of interesting conjecture about it. You know, and but when you say conspiracy theorist, that's the picture that people, you know, get in their heads and have derision for, and they don't respect the people that are either termed that or that self-identify as that are just asking questions about things that, you know, don't really make sense. And so the topic of tonight is conspiracy theories that actually ended up being true. Before we get to that tonight, there was a thing that happened recently, and I was gonna like make a big deal about it, and I set aside a couple minutes tonight to do it, so I'm gonna do it anyways. But this has to do with big deal in the news, Cecil the Lion, and this you know, piece of shit dentist poacher that decided he wanted to you know, go kill a member of an endangered species. And I was going...
It's so insane. I'm sorry, I just have to.
Yeah, man. You know, I mean, I'm sure like the Jane...
How do you get an idea like that?
I'm sure the Jane elders, or, you know, your vegan neighbors in you know, West Hollywood would call you a hypocrite for eating meat and then condemning this. But that aside for a second, I'm going to say that, like, eating meat for food and hunting an animal for food is maybe on its way out, but murdering an animal of an endangered species to mount its head on your wall
For sport, yeah.
is a pretty unenlightened thing to do. And it wasn't just this thing, you know, he was like, oh, I want to go kill a giant lion. Like, this piece of shit has killed a bunch of animals for sport, and this is just the most recent of his
Wow.
abominations. And so I was going to read his dental office address and phone number for everyone to call up and you know, I don't know, mail him a box of dog shit.
And people are already protesting in front of his offices today.
Yeah, it turns out that as soon as this happened, you know, we do the show on Wednesday, so we had to, you know, wait for a couple days. But as it turns out, this guy has already packed up shop and left. So good job, guys. And so his information is already out there for you to you know, look up and act upon. And Godspeed to you. But the point I wanted to make, aside from that, since now we've already seen that he's, you know, the people have spoken and he's heard that and tucked his tail between his legs, is that people do have power. Your vote probably doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot, but your nonviolent actions, your protests, these things do make a difference. And when we act in accordance with that, you know, positive things happen. McDonald's is losing market share. They've been big, you know, abusers of the environment and their labor force, and they're closing shops. Their stock is going down in value because of this. So you're voting with your buying dollar has proven to be effective. And, you know, there's ways that you can, you know, multiply that kind of force with apps like Boycott, which is an app that you can download and use your phone to scan items at the store, the barcode, and it will tell you if that company is owned by, you know, and you can put in the information that you want. Well, I don't want to support companies that cut down the rainforests, or I don't want to support companies that abuse their labor force, and it'll tell you, well, you know, this company, this product is owned by Walmart. You can choose not to buy it. So hence the name Boycott. So good job. You told the dentist that killed the iconic lion that he was a piece of shit, and he heard you. Let's keep it going. There's still other fucked up shit going on in the world, like 30,000 children a day dying of starvation around the world, starvation and malnutrition. You know, pat yourself on the back for a second and then get back to it. There is still a hell of a lot more to be done.
And touching on what you just said, if you don't mind.
Sure.
There's a senator here in California, I think, I don't remember the name, but there's a politician who's pushing a bill that will force the large companies that sell product to the population here, and they were using tomatoes as an example because there's been rampant abuse of people in Mexico and child labor and Lord
Sure.
knows what to bring this produce to America. And he's working on forcing these corporations to conduct audits on their supply chain.
Oh, really?
And to post the results of these audits on their websites so the consumer can go on their website and see where the things they're buying in their store are coming from and how they are derived.
Excellent.
And I think that would be a fantastic measure if you could force them to publish that on a quarterly basis.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you know, like, and it's that kind of stuff that you know, we've heard, you know, and we've borne witness to the, you know, knowledge that these people will not act like decent human beings unless you hold them to task for the things that they're doing, unless you are paying attention all the time to make sure that they play by the rules, because otherwise they won't. You know, the old notion that, well, you know, the police are not above the law. Well, it turns out that they kind of are, as far as the practice of the justice system goes.
Oh,
like,
yes.
you know, they're able to you know, murder innocent people. And that's what it is. It's murder when you shoot someone at point blank range who has not committed a crime. When you, you know, as in the case with this Sandra Bland.
Yes.
You know, that, I mean, this is obviously a staged suicide that they are, that the media is trying to.
Quote suicide.
Yeah, quote unquote. You know, that the media is trying to force on you. When you have video of a police officer straight out saying to her on camera, I will shoot you if you don't get out of your car over a, what was it?
Failure to signal a lane change.
Lane change violation.
That's a big one.
That's way out, man. Like, you're gonna threaten to shoot someone because they didn't change lanes properly. Like, you're a fucking punk if you do that.
I actually watched the Dashcam video. It's a 53-minute video that was later re-released as a 48 or 49-minute video.
Really?
And bore signs of having been edited. But but you can see how the situation escalates, and it all starts when he asks her to put out her cigarette. And she's sitting in her car, that's private property, she can do whatever she wants in her car, that's legal, and it's legal to smoke a cigarette.
Right.
And when she refused to do that, she complied with everything else. When she refused to do that, the officer just lost it. Mm-hmm. And he started trying to pull her out of the car, and he went totally off the bend.
Yeah, and you know, and it turns out that even when these people are found guilty of wrongdoing, they get put on paid administrative leave, which means they get a paid vacation. They get rewarded for these horrible things that they do, for creating problems where there actually were none. And, you know, and I'm really tired of the, you know, they call them apologists, the people that say, well, you know, the police have a hard job and they put their lives on the line. They're not fighting actual crime, as it turns out, most of the time. They're just being bullies. And when, you know, when we were in elementary school, the bully had a person called the teacher or the principal that would say, hey, stop or else you're in trouble. And then the bully would stop because you had someone looking out for you. These people act with impunity these days. And obviously not all of them are murdering people for no reason. Not all of them are falsifying their records and manufacturing evidence. I understand that. But if you are a police officer and you know these things are going on and you do nothing, you're guilty of a crime too. Like that makes you a complicit coward. And so I'm going to say that the, you know, unless you're a rookie, you know, just on the job that has no idea what's going on, you're probably a piece of shit and you should change something about yourself, because these things that are going on are not right. And
there's also, I think, a certain condonement within the ranks and,
sure.
And a protective type of mentality where they cover for each other. I'm sure that's going on.
Oh yeah, well, and you know, and then you find that the ones that do blow the whistle are bullied out of the police force. So the cop that was a good cop isn't there anymore. So you tell me, you know, I want to hear the cop apologists respond to that, because I haven't heard anything about them fighting actual crime or rescuing a cat out of a tree. It's all just nonsense, and honestly, it makes me angry, and it should make you angry too. So, anyways, we're getting a little bit off topic, but it does speak to the topic that we're talking about, because it is about corruption in a kind of a roundabout way. And what we have here is conspiracy theories. Oh yeah, so there's old Cecil, rest in peace, buddy. So we have some documents that we found. These are conspiracy theories that actually turned out to be true. These things actually happened. And of course, as always, they are completely out of order. Our first one was the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, where this was kind of the flashpoint of the Vietnam War, where it was reported that a American naval vessel, the USS Maddox, was fired upon by 3 North Vietnamese communist ships, and this was the resulting resolution by the Joint Chiefs, and what was sold to the American people as this completely unprovoked attack was the reason we're going to war, to fight the commies because they just attack people for no reason. And it ended up costing 60,000+ American lives.
58,000 and some lives, exactly.
58,000 and over 3 million Vietnamese lives. And that's, we talk about, we talk about the American soldiers' deaths, and as we should. There were a lot of good men that got sent to their deaths during this period of time. But we hear less about the 3 million Vietnamese that died in what turned out to be a completely erroneous war. What you might call a false flag event, which is one of the terms that we defined in the first episode of our show. And these are documents that have now come unclassified, declassified, after 50 years. And there's a great site that I found called the National Security Archive.org. And this is a site, nonprofit, that is run out of George Washington University. And it is the largest free-to-use, freely accessible archive of Freedom of Information documents in America.
Meaning documents that have been declassified.
Right, yeah, declassified, for the most part non-redacted. And so I recommend it to anyone that's curious about these things. I happened to stumble across it the other day in my research for this. And, and I'm going to be spending a lot more time on it.
What was that address again?
It is the nsarchive.gwu for the George Washington University .edu. And when I write the credits for the show, I'll make sure that I put these links.
I'm going to take a look at it for sure.
In there, yeah, it's a great website, and
it was my generation that went to Vietnam.
Absolutely, yeah, and you come to find that like these things, yes, there were the people that died, and obviously that's awful. But then there were the people that came back injured and with PTSD, what's now become diagnosed as PTSD, and other mental issues from the things that they saw, or the things they were forced to do, or the things that were done to them. And now to learn that the reasons for going there were manufactured should make a lot of people angry. And it's going on today.
And there's another aspect of the people coming back. It's not only the PTSD or whatever physical wounds they may have had, but it's also what they were exposed to in the theater of the war.
Sure, chemicals.
As Agent Orange, for example.
Absolutely.
And lots of veterans, Vietnam veterans who are now getting into their 60s and their 70s, are being hit by diseases that they were never predisposed for, such as diabetes, for example, and certain cancers and this and that. There's no history in their family of any of this, and a lot of it is traced back to the chemicals that were used in the war.
Yeah, absolutely. And as it turns out, Agent Orange was manufactured by a fairly recently founded company at the time called Monsanto. And they've
you have to have a good sounding name, you know that.
Yeah, they've been wreaking havoc on the environment ever since then in strange and interesting ways. I'm going to go ahead and break for a second. Guys in the office, I think the tablet has run out of juice.
Louis, is there any way to get some juice on this tablet?
Yeah, tablet went out. At least the Gulf of Tonkin attack never actually happened. This Operation Northwoods, these were things that our government was planning on doing to citizens of this country. Horrible things. Shooting down an airplane full of college students.
Yeah, and when you think about that, that is so insane that of course it's going to be dismissed and people say, oh no, come on, man, that would never happen.
Yeah, no, like it's so ridiculous that, you know, of course you get told that, oh, you're like that guy wearing the tinfoil hat. Thanks, man, appreciate it. You know, so okay, I'm going to see. I did have files of these documents, and hopefully I'm going to get to Eric Snowden in a little bit. We'll see if this comes up. And unfortunately not. We have some close-ups. There we go. Okay, so just so that we can see this, the one thing that we can discern is that this was dated the 13th of March, 1962. This is, you know, you can see top secret, special handling, recently unclassified, thankfully, so that we can finally see these horrible things that our government was up to.
And as I recall, that was the height of the Cuban crisis, or the buildup for it.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. And, okay, so some of the things, now this was number 11 of the things they were planning to do. Sink ship near harbor entrance, conduct funerals for mock victims. Okay, so that was just a thing that they were planning on inventing. United States would respond by executing offensive operations to secure water and power supplies, destroying artillery and mortar emplacements which threatened the base. So this was the supposed actions that were supposed to take place around Guantanamo. Commence large-scale United States military operations. Number 3, a quote-unquote remember the main incident that could be arranged in several forms. A, we could blow up a U.S. ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba. Now, if you'll recall, the Maine was a vessel that was sunk, and that was the catalyst for our entry into the Spanish-American War, which I believe we fought around the Philippines to oust the Spanish government there. And so the fact that they're even referencing a remember the Maine kind of implies that maybe they staged the bombing of the Maine also. I don't know, but this evidence that we have right here is pretty scandalous. We got some more. Incidents to establish a credible attack, not necessarily in chronological order. Start rumors using clandestine radio. Land friendly Cubans in uniform over the fence to stage attack on bases. Capture Cuban friendly, so these are their agents that they're planning on having do these things. Capture Cuban saboteurs inside the base. Start riots near the base main gate. These all involve, and when they say friendly Cubans, they mean Cubans that are friendly to their cause of provoking military actions in this area. And so when you read these things, and of course, Kennedy would not allow this to happen. And then what happened to him, he was assassinated less than a year and a half later because he continued to oppose these kinds of things that were being proposed just for the sake of starting wars in other places. And so when I see things like this, it kind of makes me feel like, well, because of course these things would have happened and they would have been immediately out there with evidence because it was already staged. They would have had the story set up, oh, the Cubans did this. We have to go do this. here's their names, right? We've captured some of them. Watch us imprison them and make examples of them. And it kind of reminds me of what happened right after 9/11, because this was a surprise attack, right? That happened early in the morning. But what did we see? You know, I mean, we all have this kind of "where were you on that day?" I'm sure you have a
vivid memory of that. Yeah.
Where were you when 9/11 happened? It's it's the "where were you when Kennedy was assassinated?" These are things that were traumatic on a national level, that these people that were alive and watching the news and paying attention at the time were locked to their TVs and listening to these things. And so what did we hear during 9/11? No sooner did the planes fly into these buildings, it was like a half hour apart from each other, right?
Something like that, yeah. In fact, it was around 6 o'clock here in California, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
I remember I came into my office and everybody was around the TV, and I'm saying, what's going on? And everybody was saying, oh, there's been this terrible accident. There was a passenger plane that flew into the World Trade Center. I'm like, really? And we're all going, how could that happen? You know, the professional pilot, covering all that stuff. And then the second plane hit, and I remember everybody looking at each other and just going, holy shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a similar occurrence, where I was just starting my first day at Cal State LA, and I had broken my ankle a few days before, and so I was taking a while in the bath, getting ready for school, and my mom knocked on the door and she was like, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's a horrible accident, and then a little bit later, as brushing my teeth, knocks on the door again. Another plane flew into the other trade tower, and then there's these other planes that have, and now one flew. So I was getting the updates through the bathroom door of these horrible things that were happening, and it was this cascade of, it's not just one horrible accident that maybe a pilot lost control of the plane. This sounds like an attack, and as that progressed through the day, all of a sudden we're given the names of these pilots and who funded it and the name of the terrorist group. And for a lot of people, this was the first time we had ever heard words like Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, even though Osama bin Laden had been around for quite some time before that, in the public stage. But it was certainly the first time I was bombarded with these terms.
And bin Laden also was a problem across the water until that point, and then it became a personal matter to the American people and the American government.
Absolutely, and so like this thing that they were trying to do with Cuba, that would have basically, if we had conducted military actions in Cuba, that would have been our excuse to have a war with Russia. They were the ones supplying them with weapons.
Well, it was all about Russia trying to put missiles on Cuba.
Exactly. Russia would have been the main target.
Right.
And so even though you have an Afghani who arranged all of this with a bunch of Saudi hijackers, what are we told? We're going to attack Iraq. Right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I know it's not funny, but it's so insane.
It's the story is ridiculous.
Yes.
Obviously, the events that have transpired.
How do you
at the
come
time
up with this shit?
And transpired since then are tragic, but yeah, it's one of those things that in hindsight, and this is why they don't give a shit about declassifying these documents 50 years after the fact, because no one cares anymore.
And nobody can do anything about it anyway.
Yeah, no one can do anything about it. You wait 15 years to declassify or to come up with your 9/11 report, and which is basically like your Warren Commission single bullet Kennedy assassination theory, which is full of holes and holds no water. But that's what you have put in front of you, and then people are like, well, we know something weird happened, and then you just move on, because that's part of the healing process they've found, and that after a while, it just doesn't matter anymore. But it does. Knowing about history, knowing the way things actually happened is very important, because these people will continue to do these things, and we're going to have these manufactured crashes in the economy, or bank caused recessions, or these false flag attacks, as they in fact are. There's documents right there that prove probably why Kennedy was assassinated, because he wouldn't allow that shit to be done to the people of this country. And so you have those documents at your disposal. In the body of this show, obviously, I don't have it written down in my notes, but I will include it in the credits. It is, to the best of my recollection, nsarchives.gwu.edu. And it's a nonprofit. You can look at all of these documents for free and learn what has actually happened in this country, which is pretty terrible. So yeah, there's Operation Northwoods, and there was another one too, and I'm not sure if I have an infographic for it.
But it's also interesting in what you said that, we get the facts so many years later.
Right.
and people forget, but the interesting thing about people throughout the world at this point in stage is that information is spread so quickly now that whatever happens is only important to the media, and therefore being displayed to the public en masse, is only until the next thing happens.
Right.
And when the next thing happens, we forget all about that, and now it's about this, whatever it is. It could be the airliner that went down or disappeared,
right,
Malaysian airliner, or what happened here. Now we have that to talk about, and nobody talks about the 3 million or 30 million starving people, or the mutilations that are common in parts of the third world, of killing of people, killing of their own people. It just doesn't seem to interest people as much as what happened to that airliner. Although, of course, that was important. But how many people, quite frankly, were on board that plane? 300 or 400 people we're talking about?
Right, and it pales in comparison to the number of people
suffering. I mean, not to diminish that in any way at all. But
no, of course. I mean, a tragedy is a tragedy, no matter the size. You kill a lion for no reason. That's fucked up. And yes, there should be some discussion about it to, for the purposes of getting everyone to kind of elevate and be like, oh, yeah, okay, shit. I mean, we're going to call ourselves an enlightened society by this late date in human culture. We're still, the fact that this argument even needs to be had is ridiculous, and that's what we're faced with in the news, I think, is, okay, stop killing anything for no reason. How about that? Yes, be nice to Caitlyn Jenner. Okay, yes, she's different than you. Treat her with respect. Yes, Donald Trump is he's an idiot, and you shouldn't take him seriously. Okay, so all of these topics that we just addressed took 30 seconds, and that's all that should be. But instead what they do is they bombard you with it for days and days and days, and then they move on to these other topics that are also equally infantile. I'm not going to say they're not important, but it's like this kindergarten bullshit that you should have learned a long time ago. And what it's distracting everyone from is from the things that are affecting millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people. And you know, and you can look at these things and you can say, well, you know, that's in the past.
It always
Right.
is.
Sure, yeah, I mean, in a very technical sense, all of it's in the past. Be here in the moment, of course, is a little bit more difficult thing to do because we do function from memory. Like, we are always living in the past and trying to mitigate, learn from, evolve from, you know, the past. And so it's a hard thing to do, to be in the moment right now.
And then when it's put on the spotlight, whether it's politically or criminally, for that matter,
Yeah.
then of course everybody's afflicted with CRS, right? You can't remember shit.
You're right.
It's funny how that works.
So yeah, you know, there's all of these things, and you know, you can say, well, you know, Norm, all of these documents are from the early '60s. You know, like that was, you know, when the Cold War was going on, and we don't have these problems anymore. Except it is still going on, because you got this guy, another one of my heroes, Eric Snowden, you know, talking about how these same entities, the NSA, the CIA, the American government at large, and whatever other world government is doing to its citizens, they're spying on you. Everything you search for on your phone, they are listening to, they are watching. And Eric Snowden laid it out, you know, in, like, they're watching your keystrokes even, he was saying in
for
this
sure.
interview.
Yeah.
You know, and this is a person, you know, maybe you'd say, well, you know, whistleblowers, these people will bring this stuff out and the, you know, problems will get solved. But what happened to Eric Snowden? He's basically living in exile. An American citizen, right? Land of the free, home of the brave, is living in exile because he did what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to help people defend their liberties and privacies by bringing up fucked up shit that the government was doing.
Which he was privy to and right in the middle of.
Yeah.
Well qualified to speak on.
Yeah. This person is not wearing a tinfoil hat, not in this picture or in real life. This was a person who actually worked for this agency and observed these things going on. And, you know, I'm sure any president would have said this. It just happens that Obama was in office, you know, but Obama says, well, you know, this person is not a patriot. There were avenues that he could have, you know, gone through and he would have been protected. And my argument to that is, really? Like the police officers that are whistleblowers that try to expose corruption in their police departments, they're protected? No, they're bullied out of the system. They are discredited. They are told that they are traitors to their brothers in blue, and so
because they are working. He's working against the interests of the big boys.
Well, yeah,
the fat cats, and they don't want to be messed with.
Well, yeah, of course not. You know, and you say stuff that you know, exposes what they're doing. And again, it's that same kindergarten bullshit that they put in front of you when they say, "Oh, be nice, you know, to this person." All this political correct bullshit, and then what they do is that same schoolyard bully shit where, oh, this guy said something we didn't like, so now we're going to tell a bunch of lies about him to everyone else in class, and we're going to tell people not to be his friend.
Yeah.
You know?
Absurd.
And
but
so,
then again, we're not dealing with logic when it comes to the government.
no, of course not. Well, it's a different kind of logic.
True.
And it's the, you know, it's...
There's a logic there, but it's not the logic.
It's the authority as truth. Like, and this is the same cop bullshit, why they're allowed to lie to you, because it's the authority as truth. Whatever I say goes, as opposed to like, okay, well, what is the actual truth? And why don't you stop acting like a fuckhead?
And in the other pocket, they have the plausible deniability.
Of course, yeah, there's always that, especially when you have the means to manufacture evidence. You can falsify your reports and with impunity because, well, you're a police officer, you're the president of the United States, you're whatever authority
You're an officer
figure.
of the law, you're a person with authority.
You're a congressman.
And you are packing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always makes a big difference when people are packing.
They get to shoot you in the back.
There was a black man just today who was shot in the head by an officer who lost it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. There are more of these things many more of these things happening than there are days in the year. It used to be that these things would happen every once in a while, and it seems to me that they're replacing these decent whistleblower cops that are saying, hey guys, why don't you stop doing this fucked up shit? They're replacing them with these, with these bully, shithead liars that are just there to intimidate.
Fear is a very powerful weapon.
It is a very powerful weapon, and especially when that fear is employed with impunity. You're not allowed to do anything about it. And if you try to, you need to hire a lawyer, and that's probably going to cost you $5,000, which
it's out of the reach of most
people don't have. This is not representative jurisdiction.
Donald Trump can handle it, but
it is.
But he's an idiot.
It is, but yeah, it's not correct, and it just sucks. So it's not just things that happened in the past and our government has learned better since then. They've learned better, but they've learned how to do this shit better. They've learned how to manipulate the system. They've learned how to change the rules in such a way that you are not able to do anything about it anymore.
There is one silver lining, though, I think, in the way that now that people can actually hack into systems and pull these documents out.
Sure.
Although it is unauthorized and maybe it's breaking the law, but it is so much harder now to carry out a conspiracy than it was, say, in the 60s, what we're talking about here.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing, too. People say, well, you can't have a conspiracy between 3 people unless 2 of them are dead. And it's like, well, no, it turns out you can. These things have been done throughout time, and you have compartmentalization, you have threats, you have assassinations. These are the ways that these people are able to carry out their conspiracies and preserve their anonymity, at least for 50 years until they die and these documents finally become accessible to people. And then everyone's like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe they'll do a news story about it and Anderson Cooper will tell you about it. No, man, no. Oh, well, but that's in the past. Well, it's not. So you guys stay ever vigilant. Look up these documents that are available from the Freedom of Information Act. It is literally the least you can do. I don't know where to look. Now you do. And so we're getting to where we're running out of time, but you guys did a good job with that piece of shit that killed the lion. He closed up his shop. Keep doing that. Call your congressman. Look into these documents that are readily accessible to you and learn the, quite frankly, shameful history of our country. It sucks, but that's the only way we make it better is by correcting our mistakes.
And be vigilant when you're out in the street.
Always.
You have a cell phone, you can record things, you can take pictures, and that's a valuable tool in showing what's happening before they can even come out with their story.
Yeah, live to fight another day. I want to thank Tom Stenberg for joining me here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure talking to you. You guys, wherever you're going, get there safe. Take care.